In this week's episode of Barefoot Travels, we take you on a deep dive of what it's like to be struck by lightning on a boat.
It lit up, and I thought, wow, it got my attention. And then I saw what I presumed to be the VHF antenna just go bloop in the water behind us.
Just bloop.
Yeah, just bloop. I'm like, okay, I think we've been hit by lightning, perhaps.
'Cause I am a barefoot man, barefoot to make my stand. I bare my soul for all the world to see. Yeah. I am a barefoot man, feet planted firmly in the sand. Bare your souls, come along with me. Lose your shoes, lose your blues, come along with me.
Legacy is a leopard catamaran, and unfortunately, they were hit by lightning. We are heading over to have a chat with them about their feelings of what it's like to be hit by lightning on a boat. Their fears, their PTSD from it, and basically what you have to check when you've been hit by lightning. Hello, hello!
Hi.
Alrighty guys, so welcome aboard SV Legacy, buddy boats of ours that we've been traveling with. This is Shane and Tanya. So welcome Shane and Tanya. We've decided to do a little bit of a segment here today because Shane and Tanya had a bit of an incident. We're going back, what, about a week and a half now?
In about 10 days.
2 weeks.
10 days ago, coming on 2 weeks.
Will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't catch this on video, but they got caught, they got hit by lightning, basically. I did witness the lightning strike from our vessel. I was cooking steak and eggs. Erica was away in Canada. I was cooking steak and eggs. Just as I was about to put my plate on the table, I was looking out the saloon doors there, and I can see them perfectly right behind us. And I saw the lightning strike hit them directly on the top of the mast, lit them up like a bit of a Christmas tree light show, and then a big puff of smoke from the top of the mast. So, how did that feel at that moment?
I don't really remember. I don't remember there being a sound. We were sitting in our saloon, looking out the back door, which is kind of where I sit. I just looked where I could stare out the back door, and I remember just suddenly it was a bright light, and like we were in the middle of a fireball. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Tanya recalls there being a loud sound. I don't remember.
I heard the loud sound because literally we're just, what, 500 meters apart.
Yeah.
And you know when you get lightning, normally there's a delay and it's how many miles away it is. There wasn't a delay. It was the strike and bang. And that's what that caught me.
And I've got no recollection of a sound at all. That's just how I recall it. And it lit up, and I thought, wow, it got my attention. And then I saw what I presumed to be the VHF antenna just go bloop in the water behind us.
Just bloop.
Yeah, just bloop. I'm like, okay, I think we've been hit by lightning, perhaps. And I got up. You called about that time and said, hey, you guys have been hit. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. We've been hit. I'm starting to smell smoke. I can smell the burning smell.
This is on his handheld VHF. The main VHF went down, so he did handheld VHF was on.
Yeah, and what do you recall? It's all kind of a blur.
Just the noise. It was loud. It was very loud. It was like you're talking about, the crack.
Yeah, you get that instant crack.
Yeah,
the flash and the cracks at the same time.
And then it felt like, you know, those movies where you see where a bomb or some infrared thing has gone off. You know, it's just bright.
Yeah,
felt like we were
bright.
Inside it. I mean, we hit the sun.
Yeah.
I do remember it being just like just this mega flash of light,
very
just
bright.
instant. And it was what, probably 6:30 in the evening. It wasn't dark.
No,
It wasn't dark. It was still daylight.
Yeah, still daylight.
And it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
We could
No
tell
rain.
that there was a bit of sort of thunder and lightning in the area because we'd heard some rumbles and thunders and stuff.
Yeah.
But there was nothing visible over us. It didn't look like everyone was just getting ready for dinner. Wasn't
Yeah.
we? Everyone was having dinner, and you know we were maybe going to meet up and play a game of cards or something after.
We'd actually just finished dinner. We're sitting there just kind of letting it all settle. Then just out of nowhere, pow! I mean, I guess that's the sound.
Well, I remember just ducking because it made that sound like, you know how you think something's going to fall on you.
Yeah, it's
That
just
was
a
my
reaction.
thought was, uh-oh. Something
So anyway,
collapsed.
so once it did happen, we were 4 buddy boats together in here in Red Shanks at the moment, and when it did happen, obviously everybody realised it pretty straight away. Plus with the VHF call from myself, Brian witnessed the smoke coming off of the top of the mast. So we all just jumped in our dinghies and got over here ASAP. Everybody dropped their dinner down and get over here. These guys were definitely in shock when we got here. I mean, the hair wasn't standing up straight, and there wasn't black, charred like facial or anything like that. But these guys were definitely like, Yeah.
Now,
I think we got hit. Yeah. So and pretty much all the systems were down, eh?
yeah. So at that point, it was still light, so we didn't have any inside lights on. The generator was running. We were making water, and we had the refrigeration going. And so we immediately, I heard a different sound from the water pump. So we immediately started shutting the generator down, the water pump down, water maker, the high pressure pump on the water maker is what I'm referring to. It sounded different. Come to find out later, the 12-volt boost pump had gone out, so it wasn't getting any water. So anyway, we shut all that down, and we're just standing here going, what just happened? Obviously something has happened. We had no idea what the full magnitude of it was. I guess I was in a little bit of denial, a little bit of shock, thinking, oh, everything's okay. But then we started trying to turn on lights. No lights, no water, no nothing.
Yeah, pretty much everything was down.
Dead. Everything was dead. And
But what we did first, so when I first got over here, as I said, these guys definitely were in a little bit of shock. So Olive Juice came across, Tim, Brian came across from Falfalla, and I came across. We were all here within, I reckon, less than 2 or 3 minutes. It was pretty damn quick.
I think it was pretty quick.
Yeah, it was the emergency services were called out and delivered pretty damn quick to come and give these guys a hand. So the first thing I decided to do was take a little bit of control, whereas I was to get people to check the bilges.
Yeah.
And also I got Brian to jump in the water and check the integrity of the hull. So I actually went about that actually happened a little bit later. We checked the bilges first, but they were dry.
Yeah.
Once we realized that you need to check the hull, it's very, very important. So I went and got one of our surface air supplies, and Brian jumped in and he did a snorkel around the whole boat, dived under the boat to make sure there wasn't any breaches or anything like that. So once that bit was done, and we could take a slight breather and start thinking, right, nothing's on fire, it's not sinking.
We're not on fire, we're not sinking, and we're not
That's
dead.
a good thing.
Yeah,
We're alive.
exactly. So I think Tanya poured everybody a drink, and then
I'm
we
pretty
started
sure I
to
did.
look at what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
So where did we start with that?
Next thing I recall, you were pulling fuses.
Well, because we noticed the lights in there had busted.
Yep.
They were actually busted from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yep, you can actually see that. They're the inset, sort of what they call them, spotlights. A few of those, the little plastic covers for them, and the LEDs, they exploded.
Yeah.
So
I think the main thing that you were doing was trying to make sure, because the night was coming, was that we were able to have some lights and water.
And water.
well,
and
my
bilges.
main purpose of that one
Bilges.
was one that we're not going to end up causing a fire, because you can
Right.
end up with fuses blow, but wires can melt together and stuff. So what we actually did is we went through all the 12 volt and the 110. Well, the 110 wasn't too important straight away because the generator was shut down. So we went through the DC panels, all the 12 volt stuff. Started pulling out, making sure the breakers were turned off, and then going through one thing at a time. So with the breaker on, and we found a fuse panel that was they've got these old-fashioned glass fuses. So we were lucky with Tim because he had a box of those fuses, and
Thank
hell
goodness.
did we go through a few of those.
Well, what we did, we got a bucket of bad fuses.
Bucket of bad fuses. So basically every single one of them through the DC system was out. So we went through one system at a time, checking one system. So we did the lights. Then we started checking through with the refrigeration.
Yeah.
And then so we started going through thing to thing to thing and making sure, so just checking. That's one of the important things about when you're trying to do this. It's important to check one thing at a time and always be aware on the boat. You've got people checking the bilges often, and also smelling. Is there any smell of fire or burning? Because that's what you don't want to fire up the whole boat and change every fuse straight away. You want to do it one item at a time and find out what's working, what's not working. If something's not working, the breaker's burnt out, maybe you're not going to use that one. All right, we don't need that. So we just went through it. So first of all, we got lighting because we knew it was going to get dark in about an hour or so.
Yeah.
Then refrigeration, so your food didn't go bad. And then we got refrigeration until the next day, did we?
I think we knew. I think we discovered the little fridge was bad.
the little
so
fridge,
we transferred things to the big fridge.
Yeah, the big fridge is actually a freezer, so that one was good to stay on. But we got the main thing. We got fans up and running. We got lights up and running.
Yeah.
Well, the autopilot, that was one thing that straight away. That was when we were trying to shut everything down, and even though we'd isolated everything, the autopilot was still running.
Why it was
The
running?
motor inside it was just spinning and spinning and spinning. So Brian went down and found the control box for that for me, and then we went down there. We couldn't shut it off. The breaker had actually melted itself together, and the internal was fried on it.
Yeah.
So what we did was we actually just removed the power source from the actual head unit of that one.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
And it didn't remain running. It started running because it wasn't like it was on because we've been at anchor for a week. And all of a sudden, the autopilot comes on, or something's running in it.
Also, that first evening there, once we got the lights up and running, we went around and we independently checked every single bilge pump on the boat as well, which is important to make sure you got bilge pumps. So it was a case of basically just chasing wires. We did that for a few hours, didn't we?
I remember, I recall you were buried in the hole where the fuses were.
What do you mean buried?
He was waist deep, you know.
I have a picture of that
in
somewhere.
there. And I had the manual. I was reading. He was calling out numbers. I was trying to figure out what that was, what the fuse was. He would hand out a fuse. You know, just see his hand come out with a fuse. Tim would check the fuse, replace the fuse. Davy puts it back in, and we say, okay, somebody else go check that light in that cabin or that pump. You know,
Yeah, that was me and Brian.
We went through that. There was 5 of us trying.
Yeah.
You know, but we, you know, it took a few minutes, but we went through the whole boat. I'd say the whole boat, just the essentials. Lights.
We went through the essentials on the 12-volt system, didn't we? We started looking at the bigger stuff in the coming days.
In that, so with that, we lost one circuit of 12-volt lights and a fan, couple fans. Actually, a couple lights. There was a couple lights that didn't come back on, and then a couple fans didn't come back on. And so that's the first
some
night.
stopped. Even though we put the fuses in there, they blew again.
Yeah.
Remember, and
Yep.
he was like, "Out, no,
That's compromised wiring,
Done.
so that's when we shut those breakers down.
we're not
to
going
that
to do
circuit,
those."
Yeah, that was the circuitry that had.
And that
the,
happened on the shower pump.
Yeah, that's
too.
the circuitry that's got. Well,
Right.
we determined it was the boost pump for the water maker. The boost pump had fried internally, I guess.
Yeah.
And it kept zapping the fuse on that circuit. But that was a critical thing for me, and you know, I was at a complete loss. I didn't know where to begin. You know, we're not that familiar with this boat. We've had it less than a year, still getting acclimated to it, and that whole wiring situation down there is, you know, it's just like looking at a bowl of spaghetti to me. And so, just watching you just kind of go through it systematically, I'm like, okay, all right, I see what he's doing. What you did made perfect sense. Just go to the simplest thing, check fuses. Made me a real believer in fuses.
You want to get yourself a big box of spares?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I've seen those little black cartridge containers.
Yeah.
I never knew it had a glass fuse
Had a
in
glass
it.
fuse inside
Yeah,
it, yeah.
so who knew? Who knew? So, but we really would have been completely lost. I wouldn't even know where to begin because, like I said, I don't know. It just wasn't. I mean, I've got an electronics background from the Navy, but that's why I got out, because I wasn't very good at it. Thank goodness, right?
Well, now you're not going to be able to get out of here because your windlass died.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of us. So that was just the first evening, really. It was a case of getting the boat safe, making sure there wasn't any fire, not taking any water. They've got fans, they've got some form of refrigeration. So we made sure they were safe, sound, and comfortable for the evening.
Yeah.
And then it got dark and it got late, so everybody needed their dinner. So these guys bedded down for the night.
I think we
went
spent
camping, basically.
probably 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
We spent everybody on the boat that night, just kind of getting into recovery mode.
Yeah.
So was your steak and egg still hot when you got back to the boat?
No, by heating them back up. They were quick in a frying pan, that's not a problem. Certain things are more important than dinner. And then we came back around, the next day, and we've been plugging away at different stuff. Shane's been asking tips and advice and cracking on with stuff himself, and stuff he's not sure about. I've been coming over and helping him with, so we've run through. So there's a lot of stuff that's not working. We've been through the engine panels basically are not working, so rev counters, oil pressure, temperature sensors, all that sort of stuff. One of the motors we managed to be able to get to remotely start from the panel by just simply changing a fuse. There's one fuse in each panel up there. So we managed to get the port side engine to run. It actually will start by the key at the station there, at the helm station. But the starboard side engine wouldn't do that. We've dug through the back of that panel. We can't find the fault in there. It's going to take many hours. So we've jerry-rigged up the port side engine. We've run a cable down there.
Starboard, yeah.
Yeah, the starboard. And we've actually run a wire up to the helm station here, so we've got a remote toggle switch where we can turn the motor on and off. So in an emergency, the boat can be driven. Yeah, we can show you that one when we do a little tour around. So we have got 2 working engines, but the alternators are not working. I think the alternators themselves might be alright, but they've got external regulators and they're melted, they're fried. So we've disconnected the wiring from the alternators, go into the regulators so that they can't, if we're running the engines, we know how to start them, but we're not worried about any stray current going somewhere and causing a hot spot anywhere else. So we've isolated that stuff. All your other charging stuff's down as well. You had to go and buy a charger, didn't you?
Yeah, we went and we were able to get a like an automotive charger,
Like a car battery charger, basically.
Yeah, the generators. See, it's acting up, but it's running for the most part. So I'm concerned. We've still got some issues with the generator, but
there is some
it's
issues,
usable.
but we've isolated some. There's two sets of wiring, 110 wiring that comes out of that generator there. So we've isolated one lot of those, so that can't go stray anywhere else. And then the other one is going directly to just a simple 4-way block where you can plug in a car charger or a laptop or something like that. So again, it's isolating it from the systems that we don't know what's what here on the boat. This boat's got to go in and be repaired.
Yeah.
It's got to go in with specialists and stuff like that. So we basically jerry-rigged stuff to make it safe and as user-friendly as possible. But
Yeah.
she's definitely not up to the standard she was a couple of weeks ago.
It's taken us several days to just realize everything that was damaged.
Yeah.
All of the helm instruments are, none of those are operational.
Yeah, you've got no depth sounder, no wind instruments, no chart plotter.
Yeah, I ran the starboard engine the other day for a little bit, and the gauge overheated pretty quickly. And I went and checked the temperature on the engine with the temperature gun, and the temperature seemed normal. So I think we got instrumentation issues there. So that whole cluster's, it's clustered. Fuel gauges aren't working.
It's a cluster duck.
Yeah, it's clustered. So then we discovered the most recent discovery was the marring on the
From
chain, on the anchor chain.
Yeah.
It's clearly that there was a fireworks show going on there. There's black soot all around it.
Obviously, the Lightning had to go somewhere. It's going to find its easiest path to ground, and which I think is quite a lucky way that it actually found its way to the chain and went down the chain and found its way down to Earth.
Yeah.
Because that's what I meant by we dove on the hull to double check. Because sometimes the Lightning, if it doesn't find its way down the chain, it will burst a hole through one of the holes, causing splitting, cracking, holes, and flooding basically. So that was our biggest concern in the beginning. But so I think that's quite lucky that it went down the chain.
Yeah.
But it went via the windlass.
Yeah.
So now there's no motor power to actually pull up the chain. So
How many feet of chain do you have out there?
Yeah, it's at least 120 feet of chain out there on an 88-pound Delta anchor. It's not going to be fun to bring up.
Yeah, those tow guys are going to be real excited tomorrow.
That's going to be a bit of a workout to get that up.
So let's talk about the mast. We got a good look at that with your drone. The top of the mast looks like a burnt match up there. Antenna's blown off. It's charred. We don't know if the halyard's damaged. With the amount of heat that was up there, the halyard could be damaged. We don't know about the rigging. All the rigging on the boat is brand new, so if there's any degradation whatsoever, we know it's from the strike. The nav lights are blown apart on the front of the boat. It's really, you look at the boat at a glance, you don't realize there's anything wrong with it. But it's when you start to operate systems, you realize, well, that doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and that doesn't work anymore, and that smells when you turn it on. And
Why is that light bulb hanging out?
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. And it's pretty devastating, because it's all invisible. All the damage is invisible. We're fortunate that we could have easily gotten hot things off the mast that burned through the canopy. That didn't happen, thank goodness. That antenna piece could have easily hit that and caught this thing on fire. So there's a lot of blessings to count in this whole event. It really is. And we were talking about that the other day. We've had several things that have happened that could have been devastating had they not been, because we've just been in a situation where, at least we weren't moving and sailing when this thing hit. We were already anchored, and so, yeah, it's pretty tragic and costly. It's definitely rerouting our plans. We were headed south, but we're going to have to go back to Florida now to deal with this. We've contacted the insurance company, and they've been great. They're just saying, hey, tell us how much you need. So we've got to get back and get the professionals to have a look at that, because it's just way over our head. It's very labor intensive in terms of what it's going to take to put the boat back together. I mean, I can look up a chart plotter or autopilot, but the labor and the wiring, that's really where the big expense I think is going to be. I think the wiring is compromised throughout the whole boat.
And you need a marine electrical technician that's going to actually a certified guy that's going to go through to make sure that this thing is, once it's put back together, it's done right and safely, so that you can go back offshore and not have to worry about anything. So pretty much got to test every wire that goes to everything that's not working, and a lot of stuff's going to have to be replaced. So it's very labor intensive.
That's where we're headed. So we're just sitting here on day number 13, I think, after the strike, and we are anticipating a tow to get here tomorrow, and then we'll start the journey back to Florida. in tow. So 400,
So
300 miles.
talking about the tow there, guys, so as I said, we did get the engines and motors running, but seeing as the insurance company that does cover it as salvage, because it would be a little bit risky to take this boat, was it 360, 400 miles?
It's right
or
at
something?
300.
300 miles?
300 miles, yeah.
To get this back into Fort Lauderdale, basically, to go and get it checked out by the professionals. So yes, there is 2 working motors, but the instruments aren't working for them. There's no depth sounder, there's no chart plotter. The insurance companies told them not to use the mast and the rigging because that could be compromised. They don't want to be demasted halfway home.
Yeah.
So I think I'm super happy that the insurance company has come back and said that they're going to supply a tow for them, so that then the vessel can be towed back in safely without taking the risk of something going wrong under route.
Yeah.
Catching fire.
Yeah,
or-
get fire underway or
yeah,
something like that. Who knows what's going to
Anything,
happen?
yeah, anything. And we've got some very unpredictable weather right now, and we don't have a means to quickly deploy or retrieve an anchor, and so
Yeah,
it's
it
just
is
a lot of
hurricane season.
Yeah.
right. It is hurricane
It is
season.
hurricane
A lot of
season.
hazards. Yeah, yes, the motors will run, but the boat's not navigable.
You've got no lights, no nothing.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
got a navigation light.
Nothing. We got no anchor light. And main thing, we've got no depth sounder. So we could use a phone or an iPad to navigate, but we've got no depth sounder to know what actually the depth is. So I guess that's kind of the main thing.
Well, you can't tell if the engines are overheating.
Yeah,
or
and of course
none of that stuff.
exactly. We are running the engines blind. We don't know whether we got oil pressure or temperature
Right.
problems. So
It's just better. It's safer.
Yep.
It's much
You know.
safer.
Yeah. And
And
hopefully
yeah,
we won't
we're-
see any lightning while we're doing that.
we're very fortunate that they're willing to tow us back. We
Yeah.
didn't think they were going to initially.
They weren't.
Yeah.
So how do you feel now when you see lightning?
Duck.
nervous.
And you got a
counting.
little bit of
Makes me very
PTSD,
nervous.
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
a little bit.
So we've had a little bit of
It's
lightning in the,
yeah.
not directly over us. We haven't had any big storms on top of us for the last few days, but there has been some. In the, as it gets dark in the evening, we're playing cards, sitting around the table, and there's a flash here or a flash there. I mean, they're miles away, but you see.
Yeah. Well, we just notice it.
It's when
Look
Brian
like-
gets on the radio and says, we're going to be smoked.
Oh, there was a little bit of a squall coming at us, wasn't there? Brian jumped, oh, we're going to get smoked in a minute. You should have heard these guys come back on the radio. What do you mean, smoke?
Could you explain that? We've already been smoked once. Are we looking at another smoking?